Louisette Winkel, thanks for joining us on Book Bites Deep Dive from Spines. Today, we're going to be discussing your book, Flip Your Script, as well as the craft of writing, along with your process and approach. Flip Your Script is basically about overcoming challenges at its core, and how with deliberate and enormous effort you can succeed and overcome. But better than me explaining, Louisette, can you please tell us a little about yourself and your book?
Yes, thank you very much, Omri, to have me on the podcast today.
My
I am
pleasure.
very thrilled to be here, and I'm absolutely honored to be able to talk about Flip Your Script. So the first thing that I can say is, first of all, that I come from a mixed heritage. Maybe that is interesting to know. I was born in Burundi of Dutch and Burundian parents, and I lived a part of my life in Burundi and a great deal also in the Netherlands and now in Germany.
You moved when you were 17, right?
Yes, I did move when I was 17, and it was coming from a tradition in my family where, because of the mixed heritage, my parents felt that the universities would offer a bit more in
Hmm.
Europe than they did at the time in Burundi. So there was tradition to to move over actually to the European continent and study over there. In my case, I came a little bit earlier than I came 2 years earlier than the university time, and I finished my school at the European School in North Holland. And it was a very interesting time of a transformation as well at 17.
I'll bet. Yeah. It's quite a big thing to go to a new country all on your own.
Yes.
Did you have any family in Holland when you came, or where did you
Yes,
end up staying initially?
I think that is really the beauty of families having a mixed heritage is that I absolutely had family in the Netherlands. I had a brother in the Netherlands. I had a sister in Belgium. And a little anecdote: Burundi was a Burundian, a Belgian colony, and because of that, there was much more closeness to Belgium
Hmm.
originally than the Netherlands. But because of my family, there was also part of the family in the Netherlands. I
Hmm.
lived the first year with my brother and his wife. And then later on, I moved closer to the school and became much more independent. And that was absolutely okay because I lived like a child in a family, and I
Hmm.
was very close to school and had to speak to learn. I had to learn to speak English. I had to learn to speak Dutch. I had a Dutch lesson for the languages. Deep knowledge, and it was really interesting because
Hmm.
I had very little basic knowledge of English, and I had history and geography in English at the time, and it kind of went there and went upwards and continued to develop throughout my whole life.
Amazing. So you speak, what, four languages now, probably? More
I
even?
actually I actually speak five now, and
Wow.
that German has come up, and I can proudly say that I think I am proficient in German now.
Excellent. That's very good. And so the story of Flip Your Script, when does it actually start? Because it's a long story and its origins occur in the Netherlands when you meet someone, one could say,
Yes.
right?
Yes, that is correct. So that was actually an absolutely beautiful, and I think that's one of the things that I want to show in the book is that whatever the development throughout the chapters of your life, they are also very good moments that should not be
Hmm.
forgotten. And so I met the father of my children at university. We were both competition rowers at university. And from there, we had a relationship. And at a certain point, 10 years later, we got married and we got our first child. Down the line, 25 years later, that's the moment at where things started actually changed. The year where the father of my children announced that he was going to leave the family setting, and that was very unsettling at the moment, very unsettling, and very unexpected. So
Yeah.
that's where I literally had to find a strength deep in myself, in my soul, in the spiritual aspect of me to overcome um, what was going on at the time.
Wow. You know, there's this saying when you write that you never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But in your case, the truth is an incredible story. How do you feel about the intersection of mythologizing story versus just what you actually lived?
That's a very good question. So I think that when you are in the middle of something, it's very difficult to imagine that there could be any happy ending out of it. And it
Hmm.
is absolutely what I think that Flip Your Script tried to teach. It's something that I had to learn the hard way, but I am absolutely convinced that the only reason I was able to overcome it and to weather the storm is because I took moments to simply forget that I was in the middle of a storm, to
Hmm.
develop those elements that would take me into a different universe, a universe of hope, a universe of kindness, a universe of really asking yourself, who are you? A universe of reflecting onto your life and the bigger picture. And I think when you are able to look at the bigger picture, you see that it is very hard. Yes, it is,
Mm.
but it is not your entire life.
Right, right. So you're a mother of three. This crisis occurs, and you're in the midst of dealing with it, or
Yes.
you're already finding a solution to dealing with it, and then you decide to write the book. When did that process happen that you thought, you know, what I'm dealing with and what I'm doing is a book? Was it during or after kind of you found your way?
I think that's, oh, well, I really like this question because it makes me think at how did I even come to the idea of looking with perspective, reflection, and taking a step back? I can genuinely say that this came from my professional life. So I was a program manager and I had led transformation, digital transformation in large
Hmm.
companies. And I think what you do is that you have something that is called design thinking, right?
Hmm.
So while I was doing that with my teams and with my in my work throughout the last couple of years, I thought to myself, if I'm doing this at work and I do it pretty well, how can I integrate that knowledge into my life at this moment? What do we do when we go in crisis in a work environment? We have to stay calm and we have to think really what is working within the solution that we're offering and what is not working. And I think that that is exactly what I did looking at us and thinking, first of all, I'm not the only one. We have three amazing children, and nor is the father the only person. We are here a constellation of stars
Hmm.
that need to be treated as such, and that need to find an evolution throughout the universe, I would say. And the universe was the life that was still to be lived for each one of
Hmm.
us. And because of that, I had this power, this inner love, and it's this love that became much greater than my own suffering. I think it was the love for the children and the wanting them to experience what a family is supposed to be.
Hmm.
That was one part of the story. And coming to the other part, it was also about myself saying you're not
Mm.
going to give up on yourself despite what is happening. Uh, Whatever it is that you have to weather, you will weather it because
Mm.
life is still there for you. And coming to your question, when did I come to the idea of the book? It literally came as a vision a year after he had announced that he was going to leave the family and that he wanted to explore his life in a different way. And I remember a year later, I got this vision. I was working on my desk and I took a post it and it said, co parent at your best, based on mutual respect, love, and fun. And I remember thinking, how in the world, universe, I did meditate, but that is not what I was expecting to get as an answer.
Yeah. Not an easy answer either.
Yes. And I truly, really wondered. And I remember thinking, why? And really, this is what I'm supposed to do. And one of the things that came alongside with that vision was a open book with golden letters. And I remember it was so clear that I would be the author and that I would write the book in English. And English being my
Mm.
fourth language, I literally had
Yeah.
again a conversation with the universe asking the question, truly? This is what you expected me? I'm not a writer. English is my fourth language. How?
Well, you speak it better than most people speak it as their first language, so I think that's a good leg up.
So I think sometimes we get these directions, inner directions, I call them, inner guidance, which really expect you to trust. And I
Hmm.
think the process of the book, the knowing that I had to write the book, started in 2019. It was an entire process that even was stopped for 3.5 years because I had life and I had work and I had the children. I had
Sure.
no time. But the whole mind map of the book was created in 2020, and I never really went far away from it. It was
Hmm.
9 chapters with 3 sub-chapters, and it was very clear from the beginning what the book would be about.
Right. And each of your chapters actually ends with an exercise. So in that inception, did you decide to add those and kind of turn the book from a how it was for me to a potential how to for you kind of thing? That was already in the inception?
No, not at all. And that is the
Okay.
fantastic reason why I believe that this book could not have come earlier. It is
Mm.
that throughout the years, of course, I matured myself. And I
Hmm.
started to think I have this story that I know I'm going to share, which was always written for others to show them how I
Hmm.
was going along the way and how what I believe were the secret sources that we needed in order to
Hmm.
overcome any kind of really big transformation and trauma, and where we could take the power back to ourselves and how we could also think about others and try to look at the problem from a helicopter view.
Mm.
And so the last part really came because I felt that it was very much something I wanted to offer. As if you are reading this book and you are going through difficulties yourself, what are the questions? On one hand, you can ask yourself if you are co parenting. And on the other hand, if you are simply going through a transformation, even if you don't have children, what are the questions that will help you find the answer for yourself?
That's beautiful. And what would you say then at its core is the script that you flipped?
Yes. So the flip that I script is made, I have 4 parts that are very, very important. The first one is that you always will have to remember to acknowledge yourself. That's the first flip you need to do. It's you, right? If I would say, because there is a moment in which you can lose yourself into the trauma and the pain, and being able to flip it and to say, I know, I accept, I know I'm in pain, but the flip actually will come later. So first of all, let's look at the book first
At the
before we see
script
how we
before
flip
you
it,
flip it.
right? Yes,
Yeah.
I think the script is first essential. So it's the acknowledgement of yourself. Then the second thing is to never forget the way to your heart. I think that is really an element that has been life-saving for me and for a situation such as this one. It was never to forget that the heart will be able to be the best advisor you can have.
Hmm.
And then the other one is the ability, when you have acknowledged yourself, to accept that you are going through grieving and that you are really um, in a state of pain and that you require healing, right? And to embrace that healing. And the last one is co-parenting. I think
Hmm.
that was where the flipping really happened. Once you have taken care of yourself, once you have been able to acknowledge your pain, to acknowledge the fact that wrong was done and that you don't have to be okay with it, but that you will find a way to live with it, then you can move to the next part, which is flipping your script.
Amazing. So the whole process of this journey that you went through obviously taught you so much and you went through so many stages of it. I'm wondering if within the process of also writing the book, you found that you discovered new things or were challenged in different ways that were outside of the experience of what you were detailing in the book.
That's a good question. Absolutely. So I talk a couple of times in the book about going one step forward and ending up going 3 steps backwards.
Mm.
So you will be absolutely challenged into thinking, I'm there. I finally managed this. And then a situation will arise in which the red button that you thought was non existent anymore comes up just like lava from a balcony. It's just literally what happens. You will over time have to go backwards and forward. You will sometimes have to acknowledge that what you thought you could do, you can't, and that what you can't do is part of your non-negotiables,
Mm,
right? Because I think in the whole transformation, you do have to stay authentic to yourself. You do have, and if you don't know yet what your authenticity is, you have to discover it. Because
right.
without clear foundation, it's very difficult to continue a path and to have a very a very clear direction forward. So I think what I've learned through the process is there is nothing perfect, but there is a perfect imperfection.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think so many people these days are looking for answers outside and beyond without doing the work internally first and trying to figure out the self. You have to have a solid footing before you can do anything. I mean, if you're a climber, you have to have the solid footing before you go to the next step or anything. So I think what you're discussing in the book is not just relevant for people going through the exact kind of situation that you're going through, or went through, but it's also relevant to anyone going through any kind of challenge, is to acknowledge yourself and then move forward. Did you intend to create a guide that's more universal, or did that also just kind of happen as it went along?
I think one of the things that I was noticing as I went was really the successes that we were getting out of it. I was so absolutely amazed as how much progress we were making as a whole as a family. And one of the
Mm,
things that I had integrated it in very early in the process was to understand that I wasn't alone. I could be maybe could have the role of a leader, leading
hmm
a team towards a certain direction because that was my intention. That was my greatest intention, was to continue offering our family a sense of a family. However it would it would be liking, that wasn't important to me. The most important thing was to say family is a very important value in every human being's life, any person. And if we can find a way to create a different kind of family, it is fine. I
hmm
mean, and I remember one of the exercises that I really talk about in the book as well is something that I decided to do. We do that in the work environment where you have during the design thinking exercises or the brainstorming exercises, you bring everybody from different teams together and you say, okay, this is where we have to go. Anybody have ideas? And I thought, why don't we do that at home? So the
mm,
papa, the children, and myself got together and we all had blank papers. And the question was, if you could mention for a moment and write down on a paper what family means to you and how family looks like to you, what would that be? And so we all went on, and I said, just close your eyes. Don't think about what you know or what you have been living through or what you are scared about the future. What would that be? What would that new family, that projection of what you think we are going towards would look like?
mm, nice. Yeah, you kind of envisioning the reality you
Yeah.
want to live in and then working towards that. Just putting things down on paper is so important to just focus your thoughts. It's a
And
great tool.
and I think what was really interesting, the children were quite young, right? We're not talking about grown-up people, and they were teenagers, early teenagers, and even younger than teenagers actually. And I think what it was about was to simply say, I'm giving a voice to each member of the family.
Hmm.
And I think that that was what also was very important to me. It wasn't about me thinking about all the things. I knew I had to help lead them and help create them and help form them. But I knew that the ideas, the gems, the seeds would also have to come from each member of the family in the end.
That's beautiful. Louisette, we're going to take a little break and then we'll come back for more. Welcome back to Book Bites Deep Dive with Louisette Winkel. Louisette, your mother described you as a child who would find things and wrap them up carefully to give them away. And you write about it in the book as being connected to why you wrote it. And in our break that we just had, you talked about the two final exercises in the book and how you see them as a gift that you're giving out to readers. Do you want to talk a little bit about those exercises and how you see them as a gift?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for taking time to speak about this because this is a very important part for me as well. So the second, actually the last part, those two parts came along later. I knew that I wanted to do something that would mean more for the reader because the whole purpose of my book was really to inspire and to motivate
Hmm.
others. And when I came across what I was understanding happening throughout my life, also with friends that were going through the same kind of issues or in general, was that often when we have a problem, the perception of the problem is the biggest obstacle in our way. So, how we
Mm.
perceive something, we will either amplify it or we will put it in perspective, in the context, and see that it's a dot on the table, right? So,
Hmm.
depending on how you look at something, it can become a gigantic issue or it can become an issue that, on one hand, you can do something about it and you will do something about it. And if it's something that you can't do something about it, you simply have to learn to work around it, right? So perception was something that I really understood very early on. In everything in life that we do, perception is key.
Right.
And I thought, how can I gently let my reader and listener know, you know, I hear you. I feel your pain. I've been through it. I feel the
Mm.
moment in which you are like feeling so much anger that you can't even imagine you can go through a door ever again with the same person. But then it's okay to be there as long as you don't stay there, right? I say that it's very, very okay to acknowledge that moment in which you are crying. I cried bucket of tears, and I really mean it. I think there was a day that I said to a friend who had a swimming pool, I said, I could have filled many of your pools
Wow.
for a long time because there are moments where you will cry on your own and you are absolutely lonely. And there is no one and nothing and nobody in the world that can comfort you at that moment. Nobody can comfort you, excuse me.
Mm.
They can't comfort you because it's something that you need to feel. You need to
It's
feel
part of
the
the
pain.
process.
It's part of the process. It's part of the grieving process. Absolutely, Omri, absolutely. So going back to the perception. So when you have been allowing yourself to truly grieve and to truly feel your pain, one day you wake up and you're like, I'm done. I'm done filling the buckets. I'm done filling
Mm.
the swimming pool. I'm done to be me again, to have the fun that I used to have, to feel the air on my cheeks, to feel the sunshine, right? You will normally not stay always into that if
Right.
you allow and permit yourself to get out of it. And so going back to that part of the book that is all about perception, I really thought about what were the things that I was really asking myself that could have been a hurdle on my way. I named them, the most important
Hmm.
ones. There may have been much more, but I took the most important ones based on the chapter that I had written. And then I kind of really love to say, is it really question mark? Is it really? Or is it this? And this was
Uh-huh.
for me a gift for the people to simply, in a way where I integrated sometimes a bit of humor, a bit of craziness, a bit of me, a bit of Louisette into the equation and said, look again. What do you see?
That's great. That's great. And do you want to talk about those two
Yes.
exercises specifically? Yeah.
Yes. So that was the first exercise. So that is really rethinking your perception and really
Hmm.
working on your your limiting beliefs. Because I think what we really all as humans go through the challenge of limiting beliefs. And when we go through a trauma or a very difficult period in our lives, we get a kind of confirmation that what we thought was limiting is true. Because
Mm.
look, the experience really shows us. And that
Yeah.
meant for when I went through betrayal specifically, that was completely first aligned to my persona. It was aligned to my physical looking, my the way I felt, and I was like, am I not good enough? Am I too so? Am I not enough of this? Am I not enough of that? And there were 100 questions. And the funny part is that I allowed myself to say, well, maybe. But even then, I think I'm worth something, right? So,
Mm.
but you will have some limiting belief that will drag you down for a really while or for a longer while sometimes. And the thing is to be able to say that may be so for these pair of eyes specifically, but are they
Mhm.
the only pair of eyes on earth? No,
Mm.
obviously not. And there is where the perspective, the perception comes, right? It's where you
Mhm.
understand that the limiting thought of I wasn't enough for this pair of eyes was actually not even true. And the second truth is, was it really about me? Is betrayal really about you? Or is it about the person who decides that betrayal is their answer? And of course,
Mhm.
I came myself to the conclusion that often the second answer is the real answer, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because you want to judge. I also write in the book, and I really mean it. Somebody cannot give you what they don't have in them to give. So if at that moment of your persona, your growth, where you stand in life, you are not ready to give what maybe somebody else was expecting, is because you didn't have it in you to give. So it is a tough pill to swallow, but that is to me the perception that I think I could accept. So, and
Mm.
then if we move away from the part of the perception, right, where I brought those things where you kind of look at all those possibilities, I went into the second part, which is really the three questions, the helpful questions, and that is purely, really, really a gift to the reader. That's really completely given to you, the
Mm.
reader and the listener, to say, have you thought about asking yourself this question? If this chapter really appealed to you, here are three questions you can ask yourself to discover this within yourself and in your life.
Mm. So it's really about perception and flipping your script on the perception to
Yes.
readjust and realign and realize that it doesn't have to be that way. I don't know if you've ever seen this image, but there's a number 6 written on the ground, and one person is looking at it from the perspective of the 6, and the other person on the other side is looking at it. It looks like a 9, and they're each saying a different thing, and they
Yes.
can both be true, and they're both also not true. So again, it's that flipping of perception, just as you were saying. I think
Yes.
that's wonderful. You open up about some genuinely private and painful details in the book, and I'm wondering if you have any advice about writing something so real and raw, and about what actually happened to people who may also be writing as well, or just sharing those kind of details. Was it helpful to be open about it? Did it take time?
That's really such a good question because to me, one of the things that I really agreed upon with myself was that whatever I would put on paper would not be there to harm anybody.
Mm.
So that was I was religious about it.
Mm.
And I was like, if I give my perception, my perspective, excuse me, that's a different word. If I give my perspective about what happened, it will be truthful to my pain,
Hmm.
but it will not be there to harm necessarily, right?
Right.
And so that is why also I say in the book, I will not go into the deepness of what it was. I will simply say how I felt and what happened and the trauma that I went through because I really want to tell you, the reader and the listener, it really did happen. It
Hmm.
really did happen. And so I think each writer needs to figure out for themselves what am I also going to be willing to live with for the rest of my life and
Mm.
beyond? What do my children, if you have them, grandchildren, great grandchildren, they will be seeing those words put on paper one day. Will you be happy that they wrote them, that you wrote them and they read them?
Hmm.
Will you be confident and comfortable? And I think that there is nothing in this book that I put down that I feel regretful about. So it's a process that is very personal. People
Hmm.
need to know that for themselves. But I do have to say that as a writer, I would say think about what the ripple effect will be of your words.
Hmm. I like how you called yourself a writer there. When did you start thinking of yourself as a writer?
I can't even believe I just said that. Because that's quite a it's really interesting. I don't know, it came from heaven, and from the moment I had that vision, I knew I had a book in me to write.
Hmm.
And but I do feel like I was a storyteller first,
Mm.
but I believe that somewhere by allowing myself to be a storyteller on paper, I became a writer. Even though I think that I was influenced by my profession because I'm
Hmm.
very to the point, very
Hmm.
short, and maybe a, a developed and seasoned writer would probably lengthen the chapters. But I really feel that I am a writer that can say few things, but things that hopefully will touch and the hearts of others, and will let them think about how they see things at that moment in their life and what they see that they would like to
Mm.
flip their script about.
Hmm. Well, there's a saying, brevity is the soul of wit or the heart of wit. So I think being to the point and saying things quickly is a very useful skill for any writer to have. Did you have any particular writing advice that really stuck with you, or do you have any writing advice that you really think would help writers out there?
I think most of the writers will say we don't think that that is the case. But so for me, because of course I was having a full time job and a whole
Hmm.
family and I just so for me, what was important, if you feel that you have a book in you to write, I really think you should take yourself seriously. If that
Mm.
idea pops up and that seed comes back and says it's like it comes again, and you're like, really? Then it's real. Then
Hmm.
it is real. And there were moments I think where it was terrifying, the idea that it would be coming into the world. It's absolutely scary because you're like, is it at a level? Is it good enough? Is it going to serve
Hmm.
anybody? And how am I going to do it? So you will have dozens of questions, but I think bravery, that is what bravery is about, is to simply trust that that seed that came from you was supposed to be a little plant, a tree that had to go in the
Hmm.
ground, be put and grow over time. And so, and I truly can say that I feel now that with script, with Flip Your Script, I have become a new a new part of me. And I have
Mm.
allowed the author in me to get a voice.
That's wonderful. And maybe you've already come up with the title for the next book, Flip Your Crypt. It's the afterlife.
That's incredible. I think I should take note of that.
Some writers
Thank you,
they
Henri.
hate my pleasure. Some writers they hate descriptions, or they love long run-on sentences, or they agonize over not repeating the same word in a paragraph. Do you have any linguistic or word pet peeves that kind of stuck with you in the process?
Yes, and definitely, I think the long sentences, that would be something that I probably did a little bit too much, and that
Mm.
some readers will encounter. And repeating some of the words, which I thought were very important. But I think that that
Hmm.
is every newbie author will kind of have to go through that growth process. And
Hmm.
I suppose that a critical reader might say, well, I would have verbalized this a little bit differently, or I would have shortened your sentence. But I think those are really things that come with crafting uh,
Hmm.
this new fantastic way of expressing. So who knows what the next book will do, as I feel that there will be one day absolutely a next book coming.
Oh,
And
great.
yes, it kind of inspired me and inspired me because this first book really looked at the perspective of my story
Hmm.
as the person who had to go through accepting this co-parenting and accepting the betrayal and accepting the transformation of their lives. And the second book may go more in the direction of what did it give up for the entire family?
Mm.
What were the gains? Something like that,
Right.
something in that direction.
Earlier, you spoke about English being your fourth language, and
Yes.
yet you chose to write the book in English. Now, obviously, English is the most popularly read language of books internationally, but I'm wondering if there was ever a decision or a thought in your mind to write it in a different language, one that maybe was not quite so far away from how you grew up and your inner thoughts, and then translate it. What was the decision to write in English, and how did that actually come about, if there was any kind of thought process there?
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, it wasn't at all my doing. It was a vision that came so clearly in my mind that I was
Wow.
like, I hear you, universe, and I will follow your instructions.
Hmm.
So that was really, and something that is really interesting. I never wanted to even look at it from a different perspective and say, no, I think we won't do it. It was just like I knew it has to be done that way, and that's it.
Hmm.
Yes. So
Interesting.
I never asked myself why. I just was like, it's. I did ask myself why, because it's going to be complicated. But I never did not want to do it. It was very
Hmm.
clear that I would do it,
Right.
whatever the
Right.
means were, whatever the words I would have. I knew I had to express it this way. Yes.
Are you thinking of translating it now that it's written?
It's absolutely excellent question. I have found this fantastic publisher, actually, Spines. And Spines is really wonderful because they have this ability to be able to translate the books. They are advanced technologically, and they will be translating the book with AI.
Mm.
We are really the 21st century, right?
Very much. Very much.
Yes, so it's going to be translated in French, in Spanish, in German, in Dutch, and there will be possibly one or two more languages. So I am very, very excited to see it translated in French as well, because I'm French speaker from origin and I speak French and
Hmm.
Kirundi from Burundi. And I'm very, very excited that it's going to be translated in German for the German community that I know, and in Dutch, of course, because I'm Dutch. So
Right.
it's I have a lot of. I'm really looking forward to it, and so, but it won't be from my doing. It will be translated outside of me.
Right. Okay. You'll give it a little review before it goes out, I'm sure, to make sure it keeps your turn of phrase, keeps those long sentences that you wanted. Louisette, when you go to bed at night these days, what are you thinking about?
Oh gosh, about all the possibilities, and about the fact I um, that I am grateful, that I am so grateful to have learned, however difficult the journey has been at times, how much I have gained. I look at Flip Your Script, and I even apply some of the things myself. I am 8 years down the line, and there are things that I remind myself that come from the book. When I go through a difficult situation, I remind myself, okay, this was in Flip Your Script. This is a part of my perception. What am I going What can I do here to flip my own script at the moment? What am I repeating that is not working for me, but working actually against me? And I
Mm,
really like to do those moments of self reflection. But when I go to bed, I am grateful.
beautiful. Louisette, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Book Bites Deep Dive. Thanks for listening to Book Bites Deep Dive from Spines. I've been your host, Omri Rose, and if you enjoyed the conversation, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share with your friends. Most importantly, join us next time, and happy reading. Thanks, Louisette.
Thank you very much.